So thank you very much, Katharina, for giving me the possibility to present our research on the early Bronze Age and basically my ideas on the possibility of wet nurses in this time. This is based on our project, Times of Upheaval, Transformations of Societies and Landscapes at the onset of the Bronze Age, sometimes also called the Lech Valley Project, which is quite widely known. And what I'm presenting today, the scientific results are very much the result of a collaboration between a number of scholars, and we've published our basic scientific insights in the last years. And the aim of my lecture today is only very shortly mention the scientific background. Maybe not everyone has heard about it, and then especially go further in its interpretation. So let's dive into southern Germany. You can see here the valley of the river Lech. And this valley in the late 3rd, early 2nd millennium was characterized not by villages, but by single farmsteads in a distance of 500 meters to a kilometer that obviously were in contact with each other. And it's fascinating that every farmstead had a farmstead-related cemetery east of it. So we were able, by a comprehensive bioarchaeological study and archaeological study of these cemeteries, to get an idea how life was organized within these single farmsteads. And one of our major insights was that we see sex and age-related patterns when it comes to origin. You know, a strontium isotope analysis can inform us about where individuals spent their childhood. And you see on the left side, this black box is the local values, or values that are consistent with the local values. You can see these are yellow are the subadult individuals, blue males. You see most of them would work for a local signature. On the right, you see adult female individuals, and you already see that at least 2/3 of those female individuals immediately fall out of what is in accordance with the local bioavailable strontium. We also turned at least some of these cemeteries into biological pedigrees. The squares are males, the circles are females, and what becomes immediately evident is that all these circles that you see, the mothers have no mother in the Lech Valley. And this is true for over 700 years and for all the pedigrees that we could reconstruct. The only female individuals with parents in the pedigrees, as you see at the bottom, the number 131, it's in italics because it's a young female individual. So we can say clearly from our comprehensive analysis that no female individual that reached the age of 17 was buried at the Lech Valley, that was born in the Lech Valley, and basically all adult female individuals came from outside. And this, for example, is a combination of the strontium and the DNA results. So you see on the right hand, you see those female individuals with very elevated strontium values that really came from afar, never had children, whereas those that where the bioarchaeological evidence is consistent, let's say, with southern Germany, but due to the lack of any ancestors also didn't come out of the Lech Valley, those were acted as biological mothers. So summing up this very rough schedule of our scientific evidence, we have a patrilocal residence rule of over 700 years from the final Neolithic Beaker complex to the early Bronze Age. But what I really want to speak about now is that we see different types of female mobility and female roles of adult females according to their origin. So about 1/3 of the females was non-local, probably from southern Germany, and all offspring is related to them. 2/3 were also non-local. So basically everyone was non-local of the adult female individuals, but these other 2/3 came from afar. And we can say on the basis of strontium from outside southern Germany, probably central Germany, Bohemia, so probably from the area of the Unjetitze culture, and there's no detectable offspring for them. So far we have interpreted number one, so these 1/3 non-local from southern Germany as biological mothers, and these 2/3 non-local from afar as those that probably brought transfer of knowledge from these highly developed Unjetitze context into southern Germany. But then one burial made me wonder, and this is a burial of one of the non-local women from afar, buried with a subadult, very, very young child that was not her biological child. So there's no biological relationship between these two individuals. So of course, the burial of a non-local adult woman with a young child expresses social belonging, but they are not biologically related. This is a pure social relation. So the question was, were these non-local women from afar social mothers? What we can see, and this would be my argument, is that in the Beaker phenomenon and also the early Bronze Age, I'm convinced that societies were optimized for population growth, because this would explain the genetic signature of the success of the steppe signature throughout Europe. So I don't want to explain it with raping male hordes running through Europe and siring children everywhere, but rather with a very specific pattern of childcare that enabled in these contexts the survival of more children than in other contexts. So taking the shift of perspective from males running around and raping to female individuals and taking care for children in order to guarantee their survival. But what are major limitations for biological reproduction? I mean, the death of the mother, for example, in the context of child-giving, and the death of the child. This is rather simplistic. But it also means that if you want to have some risk management, something like caretaking and breastfeeding for children makes sense if they are shared between biological mother and other females or even other individuals. And this has already been mentioned by Katharina, for example, in her introduction. So I would propose for these early Bronze Age contexts of the Lech Valley a separation of birth giving from caretaking and breastfeeding, in order to accelerate the return to fertility after birth and optimizing the caretaking for young children at times of highest death risk, which is, as studies usually show, up till the age of 6 or 7. So my conclusion would be that in the Lech Valley, we have a separation of biological motherhood and social motherhood. We have non-local women from southern Germany that had a focus on reproduction. They acted as biological mothers, and non-local women from afar, from these Unyatitze contexts, that acted as vet nurses and teachers, basically introducing all this care from a nutritional as well as from a pedagogic point of view. And it's interesting that in the burials, these two group of women had the same status. This was the richest burial. So it's clear that there was no social difference from the status between these two different groups of women from afar. And with this, I thank you for your attention.